Hello, I'm Scott Wrighton and I serve as Decatur City Manager. It's my pleasure again to give you another weekly report of what's going on with your city government. Of course, we've all been reading and hearing in the media about an increase lately in some shootings here on the streets of Decatur. I think it's indicative of a disregard for life and a disregard for authority, something that's becoming more pervasive in our world than it was in the past. Because of it, I think our culture has degraded to the point where certain elements of our local population think that it's somehow okay to resolve petty disputes and arguments with the use of firearms. This trend has been even worse in some of our sister cities here in central Illinois, but I assure you that gives none of us comfort here in Decatur. The violence has got to stop. So what should we do to accomplish that? The mayor and city council are doing everything that they possibly can to step up police recruitments and to be supportive of the police in acquisition of new equipment and technology to help them out. But even if we doubled the size of the police department, it would not change the environment where some people in cities across our country feel free to commit these kinds of crimes. I think the solution has at least three elements, perhaps more, but I'm going to focus on these three. The first is good, solid police work. And I can assure you that the members of the Decatur Police Department, the people who are involved in doing the investigations into these crimes, have a good track record. They get arrests quickly and they follow up in a manner that is highly professional, resulting in some good, solid arrests. We're going to continue to support them in those efforts. Number two is something that, while the city can be supportive of it, I'm not sure that the city can necessarily take the lead on it, and that is efforts to change the underlying values, especially with youth, since a disproportionate number of these incidents involve young people. How is it that we can provide better leadership? How can we come alongside them to coach them about alternatives in life besides, at a very young age, them being involved in these sorts of gun crimes? Our programs that are focused on that, and some of them are coming under the attention of city leaders and others in the community that are trying to change this. The third area, again, not an area where the city has control, but in many cases, perhaps you as citizens may have more influence, and that is with regard to criminal justice reform. For example, one of the assailants in one of the recent cases was out on probation. While he was out on probation, he committed a felony weapons violation. He got a slap on the hands, paid $1,000, and he was back on the street when he committed one of these murders. This is something that happens over and over and over again, and it is Illinois' own version of catch and release. And it reflects a policy position by the state of Illinois to reduce its costs for the Department of Corrections and for incarceration, and perhaps because of a social policy motivated by seeing an upside to releasing criminals back out on the street. And that poor policy decision, I think, contributes directly to a problem that our police have, and that is that frequently witnesses will not cooperate. And it's not necessarily because all of them don't want to cooperate, it's because the criminal justice system will take perpetrators and have them back on the streets, sometimes in very short order, where if someone has helped the police, then they can sometimes suffer repercussions for that. So it too comes in, and you've heard the mayor and many other people plead with citizens for cooperation from citizens as the police department tries to get the necessary information to get good, solid arrests, and we oftentimes don't have cooperation. And the heart of that problem, I believe, is because of the criminal justice system and the inability of the system to hold criminals accountable for these serious crimes. The next topic I want to talk to you about is property taxes. Every year, the City Council adopts a tax levy ordinance in the fall of the year, then which is used in the following year to determine what everybody's property taxes are. You don't have to tell me that property taxes are unpopular, but I think it's important that citizens know two key points about property taxes here in Macon County and what role the City Council has in them. The City of Decatur controls only 15.6% of the total tax levy. What that means is that for every dollar of property taxes you pay, the mayor and city council only have a say over 15.6 cents of every dollar that you pay. The largest property tax recipient is the Decatur Public Schools and the other schools in the periphery of the city of Decatur that levy property taxes. Usually the school districts have half of the levy, and their boards of education set those levies independently of any action by the city. The other two, besides the city, the other two large property tax leviers are the Decatur Park District and Macon County. There's half a dozen other smaller units of government like the Sanitary District and the Mosquito Abatement District and several other smaller ones, but all of them combined are only about 15%. The big four are in order: Decatur Public Schools, or whichever school district that you're in, the City of Decatur, the Park District of Decatur, and Macon County. The Mayor and Council announced at their last meeting that they are committed to trying to minimize property taxes by exploring alternative revenue sources in the future and by not taking advantage of what I believe is an artificial increase that is likely to occur this year and next in equalized assessed values here in Decatur. And the reason for that is that, as many of you may know, the real estate market locally has been hotter than it normally is, and that has had the effect of driving up equalized assessed values. Now, the equalized assessed value is not the same as your fair market value. The equalized assessed value is what your taxes are based on. And because there has been a demand for more properties than the local supply has been able to take care of, that has had the normal effect of driving up the prices. The prices goes up, then the equalized assessed value that the townships will assess also goes up, therefore the taxes go up. Why this is important is that I believe that this is going to be artificial, and not so much artificial as short-lived. Most economic projections indicate that those values will come back down. But if the EAV for 21 and 22 is driven up by this short-term impact, then it could have the effect of driving taxes up. So the mayor and city council want to encourage, we don't control anybody else's tax levies, but the mayor and city council want to encourage those other taxing bodies to not just ride that wave and say, well, we're using the same levy as we did last year. The same levy as you used last year would result in a higher tax to citizens because the equalized assessed value has gone up. And so their instruction to me was to prepare a tax levy ordinance for action later this year when they are further along with their budget process that is much more conservative and acknowledges the fact that we don't want to take advantage of any short-term increases in local equalized assessed valuations. Property taxes are complicated, and I know that they are, and for that reason, in a future session, I'll give you some more updates about property taxes and everything that the mayor and council are doing to try to keep the lid on what is admittedly an unpopular tax, but one that we have to use for the payment of fire and police pensions, for the library, and some of our bonded debt. The situation locally with COVID continues to be serious. Even though the numbers aren't spiking up even higher, the numbers are still high enough to be a matter of serious concern. Both of the local hospitals still have comparatively high rates of positivity and higher rates of admissions due to COVID. Vaccinations for 5 to 11-year-olds are still in the works, but not generally available. The region's positivity rate at 6.9% is actually tracking almost exactly with Macon County's 6.9% positivity rate, but still our overall Macon County vaccination rate is lagging behind our sister counties. We are now just under 44%. For its part, the city of Decatur is examining some ways of at least incentivizing, not mandating, but incentivizing vaccinations with our own employees. Because at the end of the day, we all have to get antibodies to protect us from COVID-19, either through the vaccine, which is a quick and easy way to do that, or through natural antibodies from having been infected. Thankfully, there are some additional options available for testing in the event that you work with an employer or somebody else who's saying that if you haven't been vaccinated, then you need to get tested every week. Those options for getting a test to determine that you're still negative are relatively easily available. One of them through Crossing Healthcare. But please continue to play it safe. And we would encourage you to stay away from business establishments that, in your opinion, are not practicing good safety protocols. At the end of the day, they want your business, and if the business isn't making some effort to have masks and to separate people, to clean the public areas on a regular basis, avoiding large groups, then simply don't patronize them. Thank you again for the time that you give me and the rest of the city to give you information about the city, and I look forward to talking to you next week.